Good morning. Hey,
Morning.
everybody. Welcome to another Sunday morning with me and my friends. Um, if you're new here, my name is Roshida Dowe. I am the host of this channel called Roshida Dowe. and I talk about mostly career breaks because I took a career break at 39-ish that changed my life. And I've never really gone back to traditional working since then. And I think career breaks can change your life too. A lot of what I did on my career break, what I did on throughout the entire career break is I traveled. I went to um, 45 different cities in 23 different countries. It was too much. Don't do that. It's a bad idea. But I'm someone who has a few different chronic conditions. And so along the way, healthcare was something that I thought about regularly, and it was something that was important to me. Um, needing healthcare as you travel can be a challenge. And for some people, healthcare or the need for healthcare and the expectations for what healthcare might mean when they're abroad, when they're outside of the US, if they are a American person. The idea that healthcare might not be what they're looking for or what they're used to in another country frequently keeps people in the US who want to go abroad. Like people want to retire abroad, but they're worried about what healthcare will be. But so today we're talking about this from a different angle. Today we're talking about the amazing healthcare that you can get overseas, right? Even if you still live in the US, if you live, no matter where you live, the places you can go to get good healthcare overseas, and the things you should be looking for when finding healthcare providers abroad. And so I want y'all to come with all your questions because I don't have all the questions. Honestly, I don't have all the questions. I have some questions, but I know some of y'all gonna have some real concerns about getting specific things, and I don't have the answers. My guest, Dr. Natasha, is gonna have some of the answers. She might not have them all either. We might have to look at some stuff, right? I don't know. I can't tell you about getting certain drugs in certain countries. Well, but I'm very pleased to have Dr. Natasha Ramantal. Did I pronounce that correctly? Is that how
Yes, you did. Thank you.
RN, who has a YouTube channel, Medical Tourism RN812, because she's what? The expert in medical tourism. So we're going to talk about it. Okay. So before we go any further, Natasha also helps nurses transition away from bedside nursing with the skills and talents they already have. And so, if that's something that's of interest to you, Dr. Natasha, nurses out there who are like, girl, if I have to get, woo! So I don't know if you guys know this. My mom used to be an RN. I guess she still is. I don't know. But her knees, she lost those knees, baby, both knees, from flipping people and doing all of the like physical labor you have to do as a bedside nurse. And so I know that is not something that most people want to do forever, right? I know some people love it and they want to do it forever, but some people just physically can't. And so the fact that you help women transition away from that is really great. But that's not what we're talking about today.
Thank
So
you.
save those questions for her privately. You are medical tourism RN on Instagram, right?
Correct.
So they can message you there if they want to talk about that.
Absolutely.
Yes. Okay, medical tourism RN on Instagram. All right. Say hi to the people in the comments. Good morning, y'all.
Hello. Good morning.
Eleanor, Mari, Janella, T. Kelly, Francis, Mika, Your Wealth Guidance, Chloe, Martisha, Reggie, Adelia, Nubia Net, Anissa, Auntie Lou, Martisha. Did I already say Martisha? Yes, I did. Angela, Kenya, Greta, Dara, Polly, Krishan, and Shauna. Good morning, y'all. Okay, let's do this. Okay, first of all, like I said, drop your questions. Drop your questions in the chat because we're gonna start at the top, but I feel like we're going to be all over the place.
Yes.
So,
and that's okay.
That's okay. All right. Dr. Natasha, thank you for being my guest today. I'm going to directly to you. What is the number one thing you want people to know about medical tourism?
First, thank you so much for having me today, Roshida. I really appreciate it. And thank you for the plug for the coaching business, highernursing.com. But the one biggest thing I want to express, honestly, which is the reason, one of the reasons that I started my channel, Medical Tourism RN, is Black women in particular are the most neglected when it comes to healthcare. We are the most neglected group. And I thought, well, I'm going to tailor a message of education, but also bring in some other aspects that I noticed were on the rise, which was medical tourism. And primarily it was for cosmetic purposes, but so many people are traveling for other things like dental, cancer treatments, fertility treatments, et cetera. So I thought, why not just arm them with as much information as I can, but make it palatable, easy to understand, highlight the things that they need to know so that they can hopefully get all of the answers or as many as they can prior to even traveling for whatever treatment or procedure they're going for, so that they can make the most informed decisions about their healthcare. And that would honestly lead to the best healthcare outcomes as well as a better healthcare experience.
Okay. Have you ever, I'm all in your business now. Have you ever traveled for medical tourism?
No, I have not. So I've traveled all over the world. So before I was a nurse, I was involved in international relations.
Okay.
So I traveled and worked with governments and nonprofits all over the world, and then went into nursing as a second career. And honestly, I went into it because I experienced a personal tragedy where my brother had a heart attack. Seemingly he was fine, but he had one, dropped dead at the age of 32. And so it was a shock to all of us. And I thought to myself, okay, what am I going to do to help prevent something like this happening to another family?
Mm-hmm.
Now, it didn't lead to the medical tourism aspect, but what happened was that led me to go to nursing school. And I ended up working in the emergency department, where you see a myriad of different things, not just one thing. So I was able to learn so much. And what I started seeing was there started to be a buildup. I'm in South Florida, so I was working in a hospital, busy hospital in Miami. And I did see a number of Black and Spanish women, Latin women, come in after surgeries. And typically it was gastric bypass. But a lot of them were coming in after thinking, wow, I had my surgery, lost all this weight initially, and then they messed up. Essentially, they ate too much because the size of their stomach is no longer the same, and they overate. And when I tell you, the ramifications of doing that are far greater than they could have imagined. I mean, immense pain and vomiting and all these other aspects. So those kinds of things kind of were a bug in my ear to say, okay, we need to make sure people are aware. And then later on, I found that two things. So one was Stephanie Perry, your partner for Exodus Summit. I was watching one of her videos, and she just happened to be talking about something randomly, but mentioned she wanted to do some eyelid surgery or something in Poland. She's like, you know, one of you guys should start a channel on medical tourism out there, because we need to know what's going on. And I remember thinking, I was like, maybe. And then it wasn't solidified for me until I believe in signs. And when I went to Exodus Summit 2022, that was my first one. I loved it. I got an all access pass. And I have to say, the last day after everything was finished and you had the debrief, you and Stephanie in the Zoom call with everyone with the all access pass, that one was life-changing for me, because I don't even know if you know it, but you said something that I was like, this is what I need to be doing. You said, no one's going to care or love for a Black woman the way a Black woman would. And I said to myself, she's right. She's right. And as soon as the summit was over, like a month later, Stephanie had the YouTube challenge, and I decided to sign up because I said, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to do medical tourism for Black women. There's a need.
Well, thank you. Thank you. I really appreciate it. So I appreciate your kind words, and I appreciate what you're doing for the community. Because I feel like there are a lot of, how do I say this? I feel like in the past 10, 15 years, elective surgeries have increased dramatically, especially in our community. Elective cosmetic surgeries have increased dramatically. But I might be out of the loop on this. But I don't feel like the education has increased at as the same speed as the frequency of the surgeries. Like I don't feel like I hear people talking about getting surgeries, but I don't, and I might just, like I said, I might not be paying attention to the right people or the
You're
right
correct.
things.
You are correct.
It just feels like y'all just signing up for stuff. Like what?
Yes.
What's happening here?
Healthcare, honestly, is a business. Okay,
Yes.
like any other business, and it's the top business. It's never going to go away, right?
Mm-hmm.
In the US, I feel like the term healthcare is a misnomer. I feel like it's sick care. You are cared for when you're sick. No one is doing prevention. A lot of dollars don't go into prevention. More dollars go into how do you treat this person, which usually is big pharma in the United States, and more procedures, order more labs, order more diagnostic exams. And I'm not saying those things aren't warranted, but I think that there are ways that you can educate for prevention purposes, health promotion purposes, before we get to a point where we're starting to have to say, well, what do we do? Surgery or meds? And so, yeah, you're right. A lot of people have gotten on the surgery bandwagon. I think that it's personally attributed to a lot of social media, just people going on and seeing Instagram models and thinking, I want to look like that. I want to be like that. Oh, immediately, I've been trying, or I've been overweight all this time. Now I can go ahead and go to this doctor and look like that. And you're right. There's not a lot of education. I've seen situations where people have gone for gastric bypass, and in the United States, in particular, depending on your insurance, I know someone who said you have to be 100 pounds or more overweight in order to qualify. They went to the doctor. They were literally like 97, 96 pounds overweight, so they weren't going to get the doctor to write off or sign off on getting them the surgery. They went home and just had McDonald's all weekend, went back and got the prescription, and they went ahead and had the surgery. Now, those are the things where it literally, you have to wonder, what is this person thinking? Where's the emotional component? Where's the psychological component? You need to make sure that they have X number of visits with a psychologist, which honestly, it's like about 3 or 4. You can go in and you can fake it to make it say, yeah, no, I know I have to eat differently. I know I have to change. It's a lifestyle. They say what you want to hear to achieve whatever their desired result is, their end result. So there's not a lot of education put into what you are actually doing to your body. And which is why I always tell people, do your own research. Who do you think is really going to tell you, all of these pieces? A physician is there. They are doing these a mile a minute, getting paid. Right. Some of these people from sun up to sundown are just doing the same types of surgeries and charging X amount. It's up to you to arm yourself with any information, because it's your body, it's your health. You can't buy this. There's nothing you can do. I mean, once you lose your health, I mean, it truly is health as well.
Okay. So we talked about some of the procedures that people are getting overseas. I know a lot of dentistry.
Yes.
Cancer treatments.
Yeah.
Cosmetic surgery.
Mm-hmm.
Are there any other big ones?
Fertility treatments. So people are going for two things, two aspects of maternal health. One is fertility treatments are extremely expensive in the United States, so they're going for that to try to become pregnant. And then some are just going where they're already pregnant and they're actually going to deliver in other countries. Okay. Those are but if we had to go in order, top 3 would be cosmetic surgery, dentistry, and then cardiac, actually.
Really?
Yeah.
What are they? Okay, so you say cardiac, and I feel like that's not the kind of thing you can schedule. You can schedule out and wait and fly to. Like I hear cardiac and I think urgency. So walk me through this.
Sure. Okay. So it depends on what aspect, because and I just did a video in February because it was American Heart Month. But one of those things I addressed was, what is cardiac? What is cardiac health? Heart disease. Heart disease is actually a group of different diseases that affect your heart. So there are some that, like you said, are urgent. Those are things that, listen, if it's urgent or emergent, you're probably going to have to do it here. It's not something that can wait. It's not something you should be in the air, on a plane for, that type of thing. But there are a number of procedures where there's blockages of arteries. And if they catch it fast enough, you're scheduled out for a procedure where they remove the blockages. Okay. And high cholesterol causes that, poor diet, lack of exercise, things like that.
Okay. And so they have time to schedule it out and go do it abroad?
Yes, they have time to. If it's not emergent or urgent, they can certainly do it abroad. And typically people are doing this on their own, but you can also do this through a medical tourism facility, whether it's a company or some people are actually medical tourism facilitators, which are like medical tourism, like a tourist agent, like someone who would make all of your arrangements for just going to any country and having fun. There are specific medical tourism facilitators who have certifications, and what they do is they deal with specific hospital facilities, physicians. They ensure that those individuals are accredited, that they have the credentials needed in order to do whatever they're going to do. And they facilitate everything. I mean, whatever it is you are seeking, they either know which region is the best, which country is the best. They have the ties and connections to that, and then they connect you, and they're there with you, walk you through every step of the way in terms of negotiating what's going to be done, when it'll be done, follow up, and even your transportation, accommodations, those pieces. Like, they cover everything.
Okay. I want to walk away from facilitators for a minute, but I definitely want us to come back here. Where are people going, generally country-wise? I feel like specific countries are known for certain things. Where are people going for cardiac surgeries?
So for cardiac, it's a number of places, but typically it has been Thailand, India, Cuba, Turkey, and Dubai.
Oh.
And Spain. Spain is also on the list for being one of the ones for cardiac treatment as well.
Okay. I feel like if I was in the US and I needed a heart something done, I might go to Cuba, but I might not go all the way to India or Thailand. Like you said that, I was like, that's a long time to be on the plane.
No, it's a long time. It is. So these are the things that you factor in. So like, okay, so depending on pricing and depending on what heart procedure you're going to have, say you are well enough to travel and you can do this in advance. Well, something that might cost $50,000 in the US, and this is just literally the procedure, not all the follow-up that's included, may cost literally anywhere from 50 to 70% less in India for the same procedure. So then maybe you can use that towards your ticket, towards whatever accommodations, and stay out there for a lengthier period of time and still have your follow-up and recovery done there. And you probably still fare paying less than you would in the US for the same procedure.
So it's related to Dara's question, which we'll get to in a minute.
Oh, okay.
But how do people know that the doctor, I told Dr. Natasha this before we started, but I'm gonna tell y'all now and be transparent. Last night, I was looking at plastic surgeons in Mexico. Mind your business, you ain't got to know everything. That's just no. I was on the Googles. I'd also already taken my sleepy time drugs. And so I was a little delirious, couldn't sleep, but I was on the pills. Anyhow, I should not, I had a backache, so I took some Advil PM, which makes me a little loopy. I should not use my computer after I do that, ever. But I was looking at plastic surgeons and I got all these names and I was like, okay, but I'm not seeing any qualifications. Like, who are you, right? And so I started looking at, I was like, how is there a board that certifies? I Googled, is there a board that certifies plastic surgeons? And there was. But then I was like, but do I need to do research about the board to know that plastic surgeons can't just pay and say they're certified?
Right.
I feel like that's a lot of, like, for me, okay, I'm gonna tell y'all. Just so like you guys watching, you already know I don't want to do all that work. I don't want to do all that. That's a lot of work. What are we talking about? I don't want to do all that work. I'm not interested. But I feel like that's the work that has to be done by somebody before you go put your body in like your life in someone's hands.
Absolutely.
And so how do we do that generally around the world?
So there is a US based a nonprofit called the Joint Commission, So the Joint Commission actually accredits like over 20,000 hospitals and health systems here in the US. And they actually have an international branch, the Joint Commission International, which includes like the utmost quality of treatment. They essentially are they're the international branch that accredits and certifies healthcare organizations, healthcare programs, and medical services from around the world for healthcare quality care as well as patient care. So if you were to simply go to the Joint Commission website, you'd be able to see who is within their accreditation. They usually are looking at the credentials as well of all the surgeons and physicians that are at that particular facility as well. And they do have to upkeep, and it is something that is done annually. So if they fall out, this is another thing. So I think timing is very important. So some people may hear, oh, okay, you might have watched a video of mine and saw that, okay, this one was Joint Commission in Thailand. Okay, great, I'm going to go there. But you're not going there for like 2 years out. I would suggest going to the Joint Commission website, double checking if maybe that particular facility is still within accreditation, because they can lose it. And what I find is a lot of times they are very happy to promote it on their websites, et cetera, because it's a huge deal. They go through a rigorous criteria process where they're on site and they go through everything. I mean, even here in the United States, it kind of makes people shake when they hear Joint Commission's in the building. So if you were to go to the website, I depending on when you're going, make sure that facility's on the list. Make sure the physicians that are affiliated with that particular facility are on that list and that it's up to date. Because some don't pay to have it done. They still pay, but they're paying simply for facilitating all of the process that they go through for that. It's not, oh, you can pay me and you'll get on it. It's really, accredited. It's accredited, it's reliable, it has a great reputation worldwide.
So when you said the name, I was like, wait, I recognize that, because I'm pretty sure they used to, I don't know if they still do, but I'm pretty sure they used to rank countries or score countries' medical cares. Like they had some kind of rating systems for medical cares for different countries. And I think they might have stopped doing it, but I'm pretty sure it was the organization that did it.
Yes. And I think they stopped doing it for this reason. So here's the thing. You need to determine if you want the Joint Commission accreditation. So say there's so many countries out there, but if you decide not to participate, that doesn't necessarily mean that you don't offer quality care. You just are not going through that process, but maybe you're working with a local regulatory agency in country that also monitors that. Now, do you want to trust that? That's up to you. Depends on, to me, the country. How strict are you? In places like Singapore, that is really on point with all of their laws and policies and regulations, if they were not a part of the Joint Commission International, but they were held to the Singapore policies, I probably still use them.
Okay. But if you're not sure how strenuous a country's rating system is, or like their certification programs are, because I don't know about Mexico. I was like, maybe I don't know. And okay, so I'm gonna give you the business. I was thinking about getting fillers in my face. And so just a little under the eye. And I was like, I'm not about to have some stranger shooting on my eye because they look pretty on the website. Like, what's happening here? I looked at one doctor and he kept talking about how like he teaches and he does this and he's down the block from me. And he's here in Dubai teaching people how to do this. And he's got his own procedure named after him. But I'm not seeing where you're certified. I'm not seeing any of the stuff I need. I'm seeing you teaching. I'm not seeing where you learned. And I was like, how do I know?
Yeah, the Joint Commission, also Patients Without Borders is a reputable website where they kind of track all of those pieces as well. And it's something that I think everyone should go on that website and take a look in addition to the Joint Commission.
I didn't know Patients Without Borders was a thing. Patients Beyond Borders?
I'm sorry, Patients Beyond Borders. Yes, okay. Patients Beyond Borders.
Okay, we getting some information. I tell you, last night I was looking at this stuff. So this is very helpful.
Okay.
Okay, so we look up, we go to people who are, okay. I see online on Instagram, these pages that like rate plastic surgeons. And I'm always seeing people say like, no, don't go to that doctor. But like, because I had a terrible result or my friend had a terrible result or whatever. But I'm not like, if I don't look at every post, how do I know who all the bad doctors are? And I feel like that's where a lot of information is coming from. There are people who like specialize in, like, you know, plastic surgery, guiding people through the process. But it also kind of feels like there's a lot of information out there.
There is.
And I'm seeing two things. You see people come back with complications.
Mm-hmm.
And baby, I know some of this is not the doctor's fault, but I'm seeing a lot of bad plastic surgery. A lot of like, ain't no ass in the world look like that. What's happening? Why would you do this to yourself? I was in Cartagena once, and I swear it looked like 2 soccer balls just sitting on the floor. It was just like that. I was like, what?
Yeah.
What's happening? Why would you do this? I don't want to go to a doctor who would do that to someone else, even if that person asked for it. I want to go to a doctor who's like, no, that's silly. Like,
right.
So that if I come in asking for something that's not good because I got advice from somewhere else, I want a doctor who's going to be like, no, that don't make no sense. Why would you do that? Right? Not a doctor who's like, you want to look deformed?
Okay,
great, let's do it. So I do feel like it's really hard to get information. And because we all want different things, right? Someone wants to look like a board with 2 soccer balls taped on the back. That's not what we all want, right? And so I think it's really helpful to have these conversations and figure out where we can get more information.
That's actually a very good point, because you're right. And this is not only outside of the US borders, this is even within the US. It's difficult to find a physician that really will make a call like, that's not going to look good on your body type, or, you know, or that's going to look ridiculous. That honestly is a judgment call. There are many that just say, okay, that's what you want. Okay, I'll give it to you. Which is why you do need to do your research. And if you have pictures of what you would like it to look like, you share that. You also, if you're going to do medical tourism, I'd want to ask for pictures, which honestly, someone can turn and say, how do we know it's actually their patient? That's true, but you still ask for it. And I go a step further for Black women. I say, ask if they can show you any pictures of Black women or Black patients. You know, I think that's really important.
Yes. Ask for children, show me pics and tell me about their experience with Black patients. Yes.
Yeah. Black patients, but also ask them for the before and after. They're happy to show the before and afters. It's usually plastered on their website, but you ask them to see Black patients. You want to know about the keloid skin. You want to know about all these pieces. Now, keloid skin is by no means for us only, but we are more affected than our white counterparts. So these are things, don't be afraid to ask. It's your health.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. So there was a comment I wanted to talk away from. Bum, 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 bum. I can't find it. Anyway, it was about, someone said, I think when they passed through Budapest, they realized that people were going to Turkey for hair implants. And I think that's what it was. Okay, yeah. So I lived in Germany and traveled throughout Europe. I thought Budapest was the dental destination. Istanbul was hair transplants for men. Let's talk about more of like countries that are known for doing, I know what we can't say a country's known for good work, but where people are going for certain things.
Okay. So with medical tourism, there's 2 separate things. So there are countries that are just known for medical tourism on a whole, because they do so many things and they're known for their innovation, customer service, having that, the accreditation and the physicians that have all of the proper credentials. So people will flock to those countries, even if it's not known for that particular specialty, right? And then we have some that are literally, they're known for this, go there. So it's a combination, but what I found is a lot of people tend to flock, say, to Turkey for dental, for the hair plants that they mentioned, also for cosmetic. And when I say cosmetic, I'm not going to be specific about BBL versus tummy tuck. It's a group of all of those cosmetic surgeries. They're known for that. So Turkey is well known for that. And they actually are really affordable, and their customer service is top bar. The only thing I say is, so Budapest, Istanbul, there was another location. It's actually the capital of Turkey. The name escapes me now, but those 2 areas with the recent earthquake were not as affected in terms of the infrastructure. So if people are trying to get in to Turkey, they can go in into Istanbul, in the capital, and be fine to go in for surgeries there now. If you're trying to go outside of those two areas, I would say really investigate whether or not that particular city has the infrastructure available since the recent earthquake.
Okay, that's really helpful. The ladies want to know about tummy tucks. They said, "We know you're not talking." get to it. They want to know about tummy tucks. Let's do it.
All right, so tummy tucks. Okay, so we're going to talk about the cost, because in the U.S., people typically are using medical tourism. The top reason is for financial reasons. It's too expensive in the U.S., so they're going to travel somewhere else. In the U.S., it typically is about a little over $6,000 for the tummy tuck. That's just an average cost, right? And it may not sound like a huge amount of money to certain people, but they may say, okay, I'm going to save this $6,000 for this tummy tuck. Well, guess what? In America, that doesn't include costs for things like the anesthesia, the operating room, or any medication. So once you add all those costs, it actually goes above $20,000, depending on your location. Okay. So when it comes to tummy tucks, BBLs, breast augmentations, those things, Turkey, Colombia, certain parts of Mexico, depends on what you're going for. The Czech Republic. I will tell you, a few years ago, it would have been Dominican Republic. That was really a huge place. But recently, in the last 2 years, we found that a number of people have been having botched surgeries, or they've been fraud, where maybe someone advertised on Instagram, I did this, and the person maybe have been naturally blessed with that, or they sought surgery somewhere else. And what they do is they entice someone, they say, okay, I'm coming down, they pay ahead of time, go down, and either it's a botched surgery, they have complications down there, or in one case, and I'm trying to get a hold of this person to see if they'll come and interview with me, but one lady went down for a BBL to the DR. She saw it on Instagram, talked to the person who supposedly had it, the picture she saw, went down and had the BBL, came back. While she was going to recovery here, seeing her doctors, just generally, she was feeling really run down. They did a couple different tests, and they said her kidney function was pretty low. She'd never had a problem with that before. It turns out she got the BBL, but they also took one of her kidneys.
Whoa. Wait a minute.
Yes.
Wait, no. Wait.
Yeah, I know.
I was not expecting that story.
Yeah. It happens a lot. And depending on if you're doing when I say a lot, I don't mean a lot only for that country. What I mean is when people don't do their homework and they're solely looking at the cost, if it is really that cheap or that much cheaper, it's a red flag. You're going to find cheaper than the US, but it's not about trying to get it done for $2. And I really stress that, because it should be a red flag. And this person, as soon as she came back and found out, it was probably 2 months or so before she found out, guess what? Instagram page gone. Can't get a hold of them. The place that she claims she had it, no phone, no nothing. And she has children, and she's there with one kidney now as a single parent, trying to go through life this way, all for a BBL that she thought was cheap. Insane.
Patty said she paid with her kidney. No, she paid plus got her kidney took.
Yeah.
That's why okay, so that's also the wild part of, like, when you go under, you don't know what's happening to you.
Yes. Yeah, there's smuggling of organs. And then in particular, there was something in the US, I know that there was a time where, and I want to say maybe 3 years ago. I don't know if it was right before a pandemic or not. The pandemic has thrown me off with time, but there was a time where we were seeing a number of Black people just missing in the desert, in the middle. It was primarily in Midwest, but they'd be showing up. When they were finally found, most of their organs were taken. So there's a Black market, the same way there is for smuggling women and trafficking, there is for organs as well. And for some reason, not certain why, but Black people seem to be the biggest people that are unfortunately falling victim to it. And I have a theory, I don't know if it's true. Part of it could be because Not many resources are put into looking for us when we go missing. So why not? Why not choose them? No one's going to look for them. There were in Washington, D.C., there were several girls, young girls, gone missing. Nobody did anything about it. And I think that may be the reason why it's not anything like we have a specific anything that would make us, oh, they're valuable. No, it's because no one's looking for us, the value of our lives.
That's wild.
It is.
It's wild as someone who's like done the work, gone to another country, expecting certain results, and to know that someone violated you like that, and now your life will. I mean, you can function with one kidney, but like if something happens to the one, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah. And this is another reason why what you mentioned about accreditation and looking up credentials and keeping up with all of that, they're held accountable for that. Like literally, if the Joint Commission dings you, you're shut down. You lose everything that day until you prove that that is fixed. And they come back in, they do their full review. And then, and I want that safety. And why wouldn't you want that? Anyone should have the ability to just worry about, okay, this is before me. I'm a little nervous, but I'm happy to do it, whatever it may be, and not worry about if their clinician is properly credentialed, if their facility is properly credentialed. They're going to open me up and I get an infection just from opening. We didn't even get to the surgery yet.
Okay. So it's funny. Auntie Lou says, didn't she have a scar near the missing kidney? I don't know about you. I'm not a researcher, y'all. I'm not. I'd be like, okay, let's do this. If I feel the vibes, I'm like, let's do it. Which is why I want to have this conversation, because I don't know that I would say like, oh, this is a scar I wasn't expecting, versus like, they said they did a full mommy makeover, right? Like I would be like, okay, that's just part of the healing process from him. I think a lot of people might be like, that's just the scar. That's part of the surgery, right?
I think that's what happened. And a lot of people are in the comments similar to making those type of comments as well. Oh, how can she have known? You're under anesthesia. She wouldn't have known until it was too late anyway. Right. But she's wrapped up and she has to make certain that she keeps wrapped up and certain things. And she could have easily thought, well, I went to another country. They opened me up a little bit more than maybe it was not as neat as it would have been done in the US. But I paid $1,200. That's another thing that they think. So it could be a myriad of things, but nonetheless, that is what happened. And these things are preventable if you do your research and arm yourself with enough information. And I have to say, another step is even when you say you didn't look at accreditation in those pieces and you did this on your own, you're like, okay, saw their results. Someone I know also went there. One of the things that you have to make sure, especially if you are advocating on your own and signing a contract for what's to be paid for, when, et cetera, make sure in your contract that you have it listed that that particular clinician, that surgeon, is in the document. Their name is going to be doing your surgery. Because what happens is you can get a resident that's in that country, and we don't know what happened with, what kind of schooling they had, what kind of oversight, they may have. And that's known to happen. And sometimes they can also pass you off, maybe not to a resident, to one of their colleagues because they're overbooked. So they're like, okay, I already met with this patient, everything's here, this is what's going on, and pass it off. And maybe they're not as clean as the physician that you met with, that your girlfriend went to and had an excellent experience with. So these are other things that you want to make sure, especially if you're doing this on your own, that those pieces are embedded in writing in your contract.
I hadn't thought about that making sure that the person who says they're going to do your surgery is actually the one who does your surgery is really important, having those conversations, because I think there's just an expectation that, if I meet with you, you're the one doing it.
Exactly.
Like you said, when you're under, who knows what's happening?
Yeah. There's no expectations when it comes to this.
Last time I had to go under, there were like 6 people in the room. And I was like, I had only met one of them before. Like, who are you? What's going on? What's happening? What's going to happen here? And so I think it's really important to make sure you're doing that. Okay. So we've talked about tummy tucks and the places that people are going to. Let's
Mexico also. I'd add Mexico. Sorry. Okay. I didn't have that one. Mexico, Colombia. I'm thinking about Latin America now with regions. In Asia, Korea. was one of the places I was surprised. I wasn't aware, but Korea has been a place that people have gone, had an amazing response in terms of quality of care, little to no downtime, and recovery has gone well without infections or side effects or anything major.
Okay. Are people seeing generally more bad results? Are Americans who are used to the American healthcare system seeing more bad results outside of the US than they're seeing in the US, or are they comparable?
That's a good question. I can't say that I truly know, because I feel like I need to have a bigger pool of people to kind of get a better sense. I have seen amazing results, right, from outside the US. But I feel like I need to have a bigger pool, because then when it's bad, it's really bad. You know what I mean? Like, it's like thinking about some celebrities who have gone outside of the US and had really bad, Usher's former wife, Tamika Raymond, and within the US, Kanye West's mom, she had high blood pressure, but then she went and had a cosmetic procedure, and she ended up dying as a result. So I really don't know. And I feel like we need to have a bigger pool of people to poll and monitor over a certain time period to make a definitive, statement about that.
Okay. High Vibe asked if we're only speaking of elective surgeries. We have been in the past like 10 minutes, but we're talking through it all. So this conversation is going to hit everything. Yeah. I saw that D earlier. Did I not start? I think D asked where people are going for cancer treatments.
So cancer, this one is a tough one, because I actually am about to drop a video on colorectal cancer, because March is the colorectal cancer month. The issue I found with cancer is, because there's so many different types of cancer, not everybody treats all of them really well. Okay. So you may want to go to, if it's skin cancer, you may want to go to this country versus another. But there are certain countries that are really good at cancer treatment. But the other piece to that is it depends. And the reason why I say that is because everyone is at a different stage. You may have already gone through some treatment here, whether it was a chemo, radiation, surgery, or a combination of them, before you decided to explore medical tourism and go somewhere else. And then some people want to do holistic treatment. And there are a number of countries that are known for treating cancer holistically that are not top places if you were to use traditional methods like chemo, radiation, or even surgery for treatment. So that one is a tough one for me to give you an exact. I would have to know the type of cancer, and I'd probably be able to say, oh, this. But overall, and we're only going off of mortality rates, basically you receive cancer treatment in this country, traditional cancer treatment in this country, and based on the treatment, you did not die within X amount of time. Those places are Israel, Turkey. Hold on. I'm going off of memory because I'm literally putting it together now because I had to do research on it. My goodness. Thailand was one, and there was somewhere Hungary, okay. Dubai, Czech Republic. Those are the ones that I can remember that were sort of overall cancer treatment is really good here. When you start talking about specific cancers, you may find that somewhere else might be really excellent in that particular area.
Okay, so people in our comment talking about their what they've had done overseas, and I appreciate you guys being really transparent with us. But Dr. Natasha, I want to walk through kind of like, I want to start from the top with you. We're going to talk about boop, 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 boop. What is a surgery you feel like, no, how do I put this? We're sticking with tummy tucks. We're sticking with tummy tucks right now because it's the conversation that most people want to know about. Okay. Dr. Natasha, you're going to have a tummy tuck.
Okay.
Congratulations. You have decided. You say, you know what, baby, I got these 3 kids. It's time for something new, right? You're gonna get a tummy tuck. Where do you start first, and how do you get through the process? So I want to hear all the steps that you would take once you decide that you want to get a tummy tuck, and you decide, well, let's first, how would you decide whether you want to do it here or abroad? Let's start from the very beginning. Go.
So, okay, so everybody's situation is different. And like I said, in the US, typically people are leaving. The number one reason is financing. So, tummy tuck would probably be done here only because, so I'm in South Florida, I'm in the Miami area. One of the things I have to tell you is that even though it may be very expensive after you factor in those things like the anesthesia, paying for the facility, et cetera, but the procedure itself is like $6,000, but it can go up to 20. What happens is supply and demand happens in healthcare too. So
Okay.
when there are more providers and patients, the price has to be lower to compete. So cities like Miami and Beverly Hills, where you see these things happening literally all day long, they have more providers and people that are able to quote lower prices because they're performing more surgical procedures per day. So
Okay.
I would probably not go for that,
Okay.
but I may go for something else. So if it's a tummy tuck, if I knew I was going out of the country, the first thing I'm gonna do is look up what are the countries that are best for it. And I mean, everyone has a PhD in Google. I literally would Google it. I probably go at it as much as I can on my own, looking for facilities that are accredited by the Joint Commission International, which if you are accredited by them, the clinicians that are attached to that facility are also accredited. So they
Okay.
make sure. So it's not like doing double work,
Mhm.
right? Once I know, okay, these top 5 or top 3 are the best places for a tummy tuck, at that point, I would probably reach out on my own to the facility. I'd call and say, this is what I'm thinking about doing. I'd like to talk to your international division or whoever handles medical tourism. They usually connect you, and it's someone that's usually English speaking, and then they can go through all of the particulars. And then they may say you can get a consultation. One of the things that I think is pretty critical is everyone's health situation is different. It's just like a fingerprint. So even though me and 2 girlfriends say, let's go on a girls trip and go have a tummy tuck, I don't know if my friend over here has her pre-existing condition and it's under control. I don't know if this one over here had a past history of something else. So it is something that is generally they'll provide you with what typically happens, but every case is different because now you're more of a risk. Oh, I have asthma. Oh, I had scar tissue from a C-section, whatever it may be. Now that may be something where they might have to cut a little differently. With the anesthesia, they're gonna wanna make sure that the person that has asthma is interviewed or has a conversation with anesthesia, maybe before even getting to the country, because they wanna see how much of a risk. If they're too much of a risk, it's a possibility they turn you down and say, no, you can't do it, or I won't do it for you, right? So looking into those pieces on my own would be the first step, and making sure that I gather all the costs. Quality for me is number one. Cost is going to be second. Unfortunately, cost is usually first when people are looking. And then I also look at things like asking about anything post-surgery. What am I going to need after? Is that included in everything that you quoted me? You know, how long am I going to have to be in the facility overnight? And then how long before my follow-up? There are some people that have a procedure done in another country. I'm thinking of Brazilian butt lift, and literally they have it done. They stay for about 2 or 3 days, and then they fly back. You know, it's told you should not be flying anywhere from 7 to 10 days after you have surgery, especially if you still have drains in. I mean, they literally still have these drains that drain the fluid from the area, and they just get it removed in their country of origin. And I would, if you're going to go for that procedure, stay long enough that the same person that put it in is the same person monitoring it and pulling it out.
Okay.
Just do it. It does not make sense to have someone else, because I will tell you, in the US, one of the things that clinicians hear, because the US is a litigious society, everyone sues for everything. Doctors don't like touching other doctors' work. Mm-hmm. They say it's cleanup, but they end up getting the brunt end of it, because if it doesn't work out because of maybe the way your surgeon stitched incorrectly, and I actually fixed it and saved your life, but you had a poor outcome, you're going to sue the last person that touched you.
Right. Especially if it's a doctor in the US versus a doctor in
Exactly.
Dominican, where you may not be able to.
Yeah.
Okay.
Also, insurance too. I would also look into insurance. Some insurance covers some of these things outside of the US also.
Really?
So when you're having that, so when you're having that conversation, I would also call my insurance to find out if they would cover it, some, all, whatever portion they may cover. And if so, if that facility falls under their jurisdiction.
Okay. All right. This section right now was really helpful for me because I hadn't thought about the fact that even traveling in the US might get you a better outcome or a cheaper result, right? A less expensive result. So traveling to places where these surgeries are happening often, like Miami. Good point. But the thing that really stuck with me that you'd said before and somehow it still hadn't clicked is that you're focusing in on the facility first. And I feel like most people are focusing in on the doctor first, not the facility. And so I'm really interested in that. And that's because you're looking at the accreditation, or is there a different reason you're looking at the facility first?
No, I'm looking at the accreditation. If you're accredited by the Joint Commission, that gives me a sense of relief.
Okay.
Right. And then, like I said, it's not that you have to look up separately, because those that fall under a joint commission of the facilities, the clinicians attached to them, they ensure that they keep their credentials up as well. I would still look up the clinician, of course, but I think looking up the facility is far more important because they are going to bring those that have to keep up the accreditation and credentials.
Okay. That is really, really helpful and a really great way to look at it that I hadn't thought about before. So thank you. Thank you for sharing that. Let's get to some of the questions in the comments. I feel like there's something else you said that I wanted to talk about, though. Boop, 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 boop. The insurance thing surprises me because when I was traveling, my insurance company was like, "Don't call us. If you're not, don't call us."
Let me tell you, now, you will have trouble getting them to cover a lot of elective cosmetic procedures, but not all cosmetic, because there's dental cosmetic as well, restorative work that may be done on your teeth. It might actually be covered by some people. So think about it this way. I went on a scouting trip last year for a month to St. Lucia. Before I went, what I did was I contacted my insurance company in case something happened, because of course, as my husband and 3 little children, we want to know what do we have in terms of coverage. They provided me with the facilities that fall under their jurisdiction. If you go there, if you're seen there, obviously if it's an emergency, you just go to the closest. But they gave me the facilities. They gave me individual doctors. I asked them for pediatrician. I asked for specialists. I asked for everything. And they gave me the names, numbers, and said, if you see them, you just pay your copay and you're fine. And it should be covered. Although I was out of country, but if you're out of country, now if you live somewhere else, that's a little different, because depending on your insurance, a lot of US insurance companies don't cover you that way. But if you are saying you're on a trip, business trip or otherwise, and you happen to have been there and this happened, fine. If it's elective, it could still be elective, but it happened down there because maybe your tooth, you bit into something that cracked and now you ended up having to do root canal while you're down there. Covered.
No, girl. You had better insurance than I did. I called my insurance company. They were like, if you are not in the United States of America, good luck and God bless. You're not covering nothing.
It is rare. It is rare, but it happens. It does happen.
And it was the same conversation, like, just in case I want to know what I need to do. They were like, maybe your heart could fall out your chest. We would not care. I was like, you know what? I guess I'm getting travel insurance.
Oh my goodness.
Okay, so Mika asked a great question, Mika02, that I wanted to ask earlier, but we got away from it, which is how we talked about facilitators earlier that help you through the process. Now, when I was Googling for plastic surgeons last night, I found a whole bunch of like medicaltourismmexico.com type sites that look a little sketchy. They look a little sketchy. They look a little like, I don't know what I'm putting my life in your hands, right? For no reason other than like, who are you? Are you a man in a back room with an organ chop shop? Like, I don't know, right? So how do you find facilitators? How do you find good ones that will take care of you and make sure you're not just steering you to a place that's like paying them a commission? Right?
Sure. What I found just from my research is you can use, like I said, a company that does it all day long. What I found is it is difficult to determine from a company who is doing the right thing versus you just get paid a lot more for promoting this particular person or this particular country for whatever procedure. Now, there are individual medical tourism facilitators, which I find to be a lot more personable.
Okay.
And they have the way that you can ensure that they're working for you is that there are a number of different ways they get paid. So and I plan on having one and interviewing them. I'm trying to get a Black woman. I want a Black woman to do them, but I'm having one on the show soon. But what they do is they can get paid in like 3 different ways. And I believe one of them was part of the overall package. So you use them, they're going to find everything for you, make sure your accommodations, everything is taken care of for, and it may be 20% off of the entire thing. Whatever the hospital's charging, all the recovery, your accommodations, everything is 20% goes to them. They are with you from beginning to end. So even after you had the surgery, they're still checking on you, making sure. Now they don't travel with you, but you're one of their clients, and they follow you even after recovery for however long you're going to be there until you are back in the country of origin. Okay. So that is good because one, you're building up their clientele. Word of mouth is huge for them. They also have other things where they do have a situation where you can pay per whatever you're going to have done. So some people have several things done. Sometimes people are going for maybe one specific thing. So what they'll do is charge you a percentage of only what you're going to have covered. And they actually don't charge you. The back end is the facility is paying them directly, but it's part of the fee. And that's not anything to have a red flag about, only because the facilitators typically are using Joint Commission internationally accredited locations that they are connected to.
Okay.
I have not seen them use they don't want that kind of heat. They don't. So it's actually really good to know that they have that. They're able to tell you, and they don't even have to be a healthcare professional to do this. It could be someone who is currently just a travel agent and is like, you know what, I think I'm going to focus on medical tourism. That seems to be a big area. And they go and get certified in that area. And then it opens the doors to meeting different organizations or facilities that do that. And they can specialize in region, or they can specialize in procedure. And either way, they make very good money. So if you find that you're just the BBL crew, let's just get all these people going, they will focus on that, and they can tell you when, where, what, everything about it. Oh, Dr. So-and-so, he closes really well, girl. Da, da, da. Like that level of detail that they can give. Yeah.
I hear, for someone who loves this kind of thing and is not already working 17 jobs, I see y'all. I hear a little side hustle happening. I hear a little, both like.
Asked me after my first video that I dropped. Someone asked me, "Hey, you mentioned this. What is it?" I explained it, and they were like, "Are you going to do that? I'd like to get your services." I was like, "Not now. I'm trying to live a life of ease.
You have too much going on." No, somebody else. But like, it feels like the kind of thing that like a project manager could do.
Yes,
right? Like you got the charts, you got the spreadsheets, you know this, you know that. You're asking the questions. Maybe you're going to visit some facilities. You're getting your travel, writing off your travel because your travel is for work now. Boop, 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 boop.
Project management skills. If you pay attention to detail, for those that are in healthcare, you get an added bonus because there's that added level of credibility because you understand healthcare, that you may ask questions that the average travel agent who's not yet as experienced in that area would ask. So I can see, as a matter of fact, I'm hearing that more and more nurses are actually going into medical tourism facilitation. They are able to say, nope, I need to know what the recovery time is. Are they going to get fluids? Are they going to, I mean, who wouldn't want that? That's like a personal concierge type of service. So.
And both Anissa, who had a Black woman medical concierge, find her doctor, and Shauna both said it was a great experience.
Yeah. The individuals to me are the way to go rather than working with facilities. I find that they're more credible because they tend to stick to the accredited facilities.
Okay. So Anissa said, when I use the professor, she does it between classes. Listen.
Wow.
That's a gig, right? That's a gig. That is, but yeah, I'm not telling y'all, I'll run out. You know how I feel. Pick one thing and do it well.
Yeah.
I'm not saying I want 12 of you to add this to your list, but if you're like, I love to be organized and have information and share it, and I love talking about medical stuff, and I have any kind of medical knowledge, because you don't need any specific background or experience to do this, right?
You don't. You would go through a facilitation certification program, which I think is a couple of weeks. And then once you have that, it's about building up your clientele.
Okay. Oh, Anessa was in Medellin. She sent me a driver and a local to go with me to help me get my meds.
Yes. They do all of that. Let me listen. It's that to me is the best service, because that, I think, is what you need when you are in your most vulnerable state, trying to just recover from whatever it is, those kinds of things. Who to select and which country to select is important. And I say which country because, you want to go to wherever it is that does the most of these surgeries, or they're known for it. But the other piece is, how do they treat Black women?
Hello.
Thank you.
Hi. How do they treat Black women? Okay, so High Vibe says she's an RN and she wants to know about this, how to find out about the side hustle. If you weren't here in the beginning, Dr. Natasha also has a side hustle. And in that, she has a company. And as part of that, she helps RNs move away, or all nurses, right? All nurses.
Yeah, all nurses, RNs and LPNs.
Move away from bedside nursing. So if you're a bedside nurse now and you want to figure out how you can be a medical tourism facilitator, higher nursing.
Highernursing.com. Yes.
The brain did something funny there. The brain did something funny there. I'm gonna drop this link in here again. Higher Nursing is Dr. Natasha's company, and she can help you with that.
Thank you.
Okay, so Lena asked, how can I go about getting a job as an RN? Lena, are you already a registered nurse and looking for a job, or are you looking to become a registered nurse? Can't tell from this question.
Yeah.
Okay, Patty says, how do you find the individual concierge?
So you can Google medical tourism facilitators, and you'll have, the world is your oyster. You can determine who you can pick, choose, and refuse whoever you think after speaking with them. If you resonate with them, if their disposition pleases you, hire them. But you definitely should look at any testimonials they have about their treatment, those kinds of things. Always look at that. But then the biggest thing, once you have someone is asking about which facilities, you want to confirm that they are using Joint Commission International accredited facilities.
Okay, that's really helpful. I think her name is B. Sorry if I'm pronouncing that wrong. Maybe it's Bia. I'm going to say Bia Robinson. I don't know. Sorry, B or Bia. I'm not sure. Lives in Portugal and used a health concierge there. That's something I hadn't thought about. Yes. So I'm in Mexico trying to figure out doctors to find and stuff to do and who to what.
Too much work.
This could be somebody with someone who I'm like, this is where I live. These are for doctors. I made a list at 2 p.m. last night. I was like, I need to find a new gynecologist. I need to get this done. I need to get that done. And a health concierge could make all that easier for me instead of having to do my research, which I told y'all I'm not doing.
That's another side hustle for nurses. Doesn't have to be a nurse, but I'm just saying that's another one that people can consider, the health concierge.
Okay. So what's the difference? So a health concierge is more like in one location kind of thing versus, how does that differ from a medical tourism facilitator?
So the medical tourism facilitator is specific to whatever procedure or treatment you're going to get abroad from your country of origin. When you have a health concierge, that could be any aspect of health. It could be primary health, and they're just going around and getting your meds, doing these things. Or it can be higher level as well, which are inclusive of what the medical tourism facilitator does. But because you're in country, they may focus on that only in that particular country, not outside of that.
Okay, let me write down health concierge and see if I
Yeah.
can find one.
And in some cases, health concierge, what they do is if you are having a procedure, they will stay with you. So there's some people that just can't get someone to go with them, family, girlfriend, whatever. And I do not recommend anyone ever, and I don't mean only outside of the US, even when you're in the US or whatever country of origin you're in, go with someone, and I don't mean just any someone that will speak on your behalf if you are unable to. Will they ask questions like, when do we expect them to come out of anesthesia? What about this? If you're hurt, some of those things, you need to have someone that is able to advocate on your behalf no matter what. Some health concierges do that. Some of them do where you're having a procedure and they're the ones that traveled with you, they'll stay with you, and they are changing your bandages, giving you food, all those things. They're like what maybe a loved one would do for you if you had them with you.
Okay. All right, that's good to know. It's good to know. Okay. I'm having a procedure, minor, on Friday, and my normal people who would go with me are out of town. So I've been like, what am I going to do about this? But that might be the answer.
Yeah, you need someone. I don't care what it is, and then I'm going to do a video about this sometime soon. It's yeah, a lot of content in my head. But one of the things I want to do is make sure you have even top 5 or 10 words of the country you're going to have a procedure done in if it's not your native tongue. Okay. When you travel just for travel, I think everyone should know basic things like yes, no, thank you, bathroom, help, right? Those 5 words. If you just learn those words, you'll be fine. But I think that there's certain ones for medical tourism that you should know. Can't breathe, hurt, like pain, and all you need to know is the word pain and then point. They'll get it.
I have done that before.
But there's certain things that you should know, and particularly when it comes to allergies as well. I'm really particular on that because an allergy can just adverse event waiting to happen. So I want to make sure that people know maybe the top 5 things outside of those other words if you're going to a country where you don't speak the language.
Okay. That's actually a question that Jolana brought up earlier. What about translators? I'm nervous I won't be able to communicate my needs. And so I would have assumed that a lot of doctors who are dealing with people traveling for medical tourism, I feel like there are probably doctors who deal with a lot of people traveling. Am I wrong?
No, you're correct. You're correct. If they're there and they're medical tourists, now it doesn't mean that they're not doing procedures for people who live in country, but they are typically known for being the medical tourism clinician. So what happens is they usually know English or another language that's widely spoken, and that group of medical tourism clinicians tend to meet all the time with the medical tourism group, which usually they do have nurses that are English speakers specifically for that. And it's almost like a completely different department in the facility because literally you come in, oh, you're medical tourism, you go over here. And in Thailand, it's like a well-tuned oil machine. I mean, it's like, oh, you are? What language do you speak? They have 14 languages. Okay, take it here. It's all computerized. You just press it, answer questions. A nurse will take you to the next section. You're going, I mean, impressive. Dubai and Thailand, I have to say, impressive when it comes to the customer service aspect along with the quality of care.
Okay, that's really helpful. So you learn a few words. Your doctor probably knows a few words. I had the procedure I'm going to getting on Friday. The doctor told me he didn't speak any English, and then I'm working through my Spanish. It's about a condition, one of my chronic conditions, and it's a procedure I've had before. It's like he's walking me through it. I'm like, I know what we're gonna do. Like I'm good. Like you're pantomiming enough that I understand that it's gonna be just like the last time I did it. We're good. We are solid, right? And then every once in a while he's saying a word in English, and I'm like, how much English does this man know? How much does he know that we're here struggling through Spanish? I feel like he's got like a lot of English in his back pocket, and he's not telling you.
Yes, that happens a lot. And for that, I will tell you, India is very big for medical tourism for a number of different types. And the reason for that is because they have the most English-speaking clinicians outside of the US.
Oh, really?
So yeah, so if you are interested in seeing the Taj Mahal and getting something done, you'll go there and you don't have to worry about translators. Spend 3 months or less. You can do less. I just, be mindful of whatever it is you're going for and making sure that you have enough time to rest, recover, go to your follow up in country, and feel good enough to travel back without an issue.
Okay, that's actually a great point. Let's get there because I don't know. I'm going to wait. You told me already. Did you say the Czech Republic was good for cardiac stuff?
Czech Republic, not for cardiac. I think I said it for one of the cosmetics. I think I said for
Who's good with hearts?
with hearts, I said Spain, Dubai, Thailand, Cuba, and there was one more.
Okay. Yes, because I said Thailand. You said Thailand and India first, and I was like, that's far.
India,
Okay.
yes.
So I'm going to Thailand for them to do a little clinkety clink 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 in my heart. Clink clink clink. Sorry, that sounded kind of disrespectful. I just don't know. I don't know the words. So they got some tools and they're clickety clacking in there. All right. What should I be prepared for schedule wise? Right, because I got to go. I'm assuming got to get there a little earlier, but it's not like we're showing up in the country every day of our surgery. Right? We're going to get there earlier. There's going to be like prep appointments with the doctors usually. Is that what's expected?
So yes, so depending on what you're going for and how severe it may be, I'm assuming, okay, not urgent or emergent, but you have to have this procedure done. Mm-hmm. A lot of the pre is done virtually.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so now what they're requesting are going to be images. So you may have your imaging done, blood test done. They're certain a period of time out, say 6 weeks out. It doesn't mean that once you get there, you're going to have it again. They want to make sure that, okay, that's how you were 6 weeks out. That's a snapshot once you're in country, because we're scheduling it for, let's say, next Tuesday. You arrive on a Thursday before. They want to make sure they have labs, the most up-to-date labs, so they can check and see if things are going to be fine. Don't have to worry about any issues for this particular procedure. But ahead of time, whatever was done, your medical history, any other procedures, anything you can get on CD or be transferred from whatever facilities you were seeing, it can be emailed over. They will have many virtual conversations with you beforehand. To ask questions, clarify, whatever it is.
Okay. And pause. If y'all haven't given this video a thumbs up, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. If you're not subscribed to this channel, hey girl, we do this every week. Subscribe. Subscribe to Dr. Natasha's channel, Medical Tourism RN 812. It's in the description. Okay. Now let's keep it moving. We're in the country. We did the before stuff. Mm-hmm. We have the surgery. What I know that each procedure is going to have a different recovery time, and each human is going to have a different recovery time. Yeah. But what are some kind of guidelines you can give about recovery in country versus time to travel, et cetera?
So anything for neuro, the brain, anything for cardiac, opening up the chest, or maybe not even opening, but anything for cardiac specifically, I would suggest that you stay a month or more. You don't have to. They're going to tell you not to. But in my opinion, and this is just going off of the emergency department education, anything that someone says they have chest pain, shortness of breath, or if they're dizzy, almost faint type of thing, these are all neuro or cardiac related. Those are really, it's very important time-wise that you get some attention. So for that, I say, what's wrong with taking a month? If you decided to go to another country to do this, then take some time off and do it, right? And don't I know that they're going to tell you, oh, you don't need that much time. It's fine. Take it. What's the problem? Take it. So I would say for that. Now, 7 to 10 days is what people generally will tell you for if getting back on a plane because of air pressure, also for dental work. Air pressure, but then also because of the ability to develop clots, blood clots, depending on where you're traveling to and how far and all of those pieces. But we've seen a lot of people who have like BBLs, they just get those inflatable seats. They
Little
do
donut.
that. Doctors will tell them if they had a BBL, make sure you walk. So when you go to the airport, walk. Don't get a wheelchair. Nobody's listening. They get the wheelchair. And they are just, they want to be the first on the plane. I don't mind you getting the wheelchair to be first on the plane, but walk the entire time that you're there waiting to board, and then at the appropriate time, go ahead and get the wheelchair so you can board first and be comfortable. You should also try and walk depending on how long the air ride is. If it's 2 hours or more, try to get up twice and walk to the back of the plane like you're going to the bathroom, walk back and walk again. Okay. Like I said, I prefer longer periods of time for recovery, because if you decided to have yourself operated on in another country, stay there and make sure that you truly are recovered, don't have any complications, because little things happen. You can cough and something splits a suture.
Yeah. My friend got some cosmetic elective procedure done. I don't know if it was like a full everything or like just a BBL. I think she got a flesh-eating disease.
Ooh. Oh my goodness.
She put the photos on the Facebook, and I was like, no, baby, that's not what Facebook's for. Show me a dog, show me your kids. Don't show me your skin like missing. Like, I don't want that. But it happens, right?
Yes.
And I think she was having the same problem when she came back. The doctors here were like, what's that got to do with me?
Yeah.
Why would I touch that? Yes,
exactly. You put yourself at greater risk too by exposing yourself to the airport. You are literally going to a place that's infested with I don't know how many germs. People coming and going all day long, and then you get on the plane. People breathing, doing this. They sat on the seat. Who knows if they really wiped it clean properly? All those pieces, all of that plays a role. And honestly, you need a lot of rest too. People come back and they just think, oh, yes, I got it done. And they hop right back into their daily activities. And they shouldn't. They shouldn't be picking up anything heavier than a gallon of water, or a baby, a small baby, things like that. It shouldn't be going upstairs for certain procedures. And they still do it because they have just been, they feel like, I haven't had anything happen so far. I'm back. Things are fine. That's not the way to go. Treat your body with the same respect, that you would treat some of the most important things that you cherish.
Okay. That's actually really helpful advice, because I feel like a lot of times we aren't given the time or the space to treat our bodies well. And we also think that if we do, we're being selfish, or we're not looking at someone else's needs, or like, I'm supposed to be back at work, right? Or my kids need me.
It's true. It's true. And
recovered well.
You literally jump back into that as soon as you land. Like, your mind is already going to, oh, I got to pick up this, I got to pick up that. And I have that. I've never done a procedure abroad, but when I go, whether it's for work or I go on a vacation, literally as soon as I land back in the US, I feel like the hustle and bustle already. Oh my gosh, I gotta get ready for work on Monday, and I gotta get this. I gotta go grocery shopping. I gotta wash the clothes. All of these things still weigh on your mind when you should be relaxing. So that's why I say stay away as long as you can, because you can easily get sucked back into the day to day, and it's not necessarily good for your recovery.
Right. Anissa says, y'all, please listen. My legs swelled flying after an ankle tattoo, and it got infected. I can't imagine what would happen with the surgery. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, who knows what's in that? We know that air is nasty.
Yeah.
We know that air is nasty. Okay, so you think after any surgery abroad, if you can take a month and just chill.
Yeah. If you're going for dental stuff, no. You're going for dental. And when I say dental, some people just go for pulling up certain teeth. If it's a root canal, just wait a few days, just because of the pressure. The pressure in a plane can just give you pain, severe pain mid-air. So for those things, you want to ask ahead of time. And that's just a couple days, honestly. Okay. But if you're going to have some major stuff done to you, absolutely take a month or more.
Okay. I think someone else already asked this question, I think. Let me double check. Or was it Auntie Lou again? It was you. I hadn't forgotten about you. Let's talk LASIK eye surgery. Do you know anyone out anywhere where people are doing it and doing it well?
It's being done all over, especially Europe. Any part of Europe, honestly, is like pick and choose. Turkey, again, huge for that. Poland. I'd have to look for South America. I just remember Europe was pretty big. Mexico was big for that as well. And I can't, I'd have to do a little bit more research on that, because that's one of the things I have to touch on. I have to touch on eye as well as ortho types of surgeries. I've had a lot of people in comments from videos ask me if I can cover those areas, and I plan to.
Okay, that's awesome. Let's talk about veneers real quick, where they don't put you under.
Okay.
Do they normally put you under for veneers, or is it just a little shoot up in the mouth?
I don't know. I don't know all the specifics of dental, but I did cover dental on my channel, and there's a lot of things to consider because people think it's so simple, which it is, but it also depends on what you're doing. Like, are you going for general work where you're like regular checkups, cleaning twice a year, maybe pulling of one tooth, that type of thing? Or are you going for like a reconstructive oral surgery? And if so, that brings in a whole lot of things that people don't think about. Not only from a cost perspective, but the training that we talked about, making sure that dentists are trained and that they perform like a full array of cosmetic or restorative procedures that, or if they have to refer to maybe a colleague. These are things that I think when it comes to dental, a lot of people are not looking at that beforehand. They need to make sure that make sure that whoever they spoke to, again, it's written in that you're going to have your procedure done by that particular clinician. You also need to ask about, okay, what about if I happen to need a referral? You know, it's not like the US where you may be told and then you're waiting and all these things. They may literally just pass you off and say, hey, you go to my guy down the street. That's not comfortable for you. You didn't interview them ahead of time. You didn't look them up, all those pieces. And how that's handled before you even travel, because it'll help you prepare as much as possible prior to travel, rather than an unexpected surprise where you'll be upset. And you'll also have to probably incur more costs, right? And then treatments offered. So if you are going for something, a specific dental treatment, make sure that that particular dentist or that practice offers that same service. And in my dental video, I gave an example. Although your dentist may offer something like, I give an example of Invisalign, you know, the clear braces. Okay, you may see an advertising for that. They're a clear alternative. If you're interested in that particular procedure, your dentist may offer invisible braces, a solution, similar in function, similar in quality to Invisalign, but they may not be certified to provide Invisalign specifically. Invisalign has trained orthodontists for their products. So if this is important to you, then it's something you need to consider during your research and ask specifically about that. Emergency care, also for dentists. With dental, people will go have their procedure, spend a couple of days and go back home. In the interim, before you leave, what if you crack a tooth, you're eating, whatever may happen, oral trauma, any kind of damage can happen. What does the practice offer in terms of flexible hours? Do they offer emergency care, or should you just go to an emergency department at a hospital? These are things that you're going to have to know ahead of time, along with dental technologies. Like, you know, are they using some new technologies to improve your patient experience or enhance your patient treatment? That costs a little bit more money, but for those who have anxiety, it might be worth it to have some of that cutting edge technology in there that provides some things like patient comforts. You know, laughing gas is one option, but then some practices go as far as offering you headphones, a massage, aromatherapy. All these things put patients at ease. So all of those things are things that should be considered, particularly for dental.
Okay. So earlier, Devra brought up a great point, which was having dental work done. Her dentist, her American dentist, which, you know, we got to take it with a grain of salt.
Yes.
You know, Americans be. That skills abroad aren't an issue, but quality of materials might be, and that's where she might want to be careful. So have you heard any concerns about, in any of the procedures happening from reputable, accredited places, that there might not have the materials that we would have access to in America?
I've heard it through news, like a news segment, and it was specific to Mexico. Keep in mind, American media will position things for you to think a certain way, right? So I have to take that with a grain of salt also. Maybe they were targeting Mexico because so many Americans were going across the border to have this dental work done as opposed to it being done here. It doesn't mean it doesn't happen, but this particular segment and the way I found out about it was through the news. Was there's a particular area, I don't remember what city, that's known for having so many people come across the border for dental work. So they went to the place, talked with the clinicians. The clinicians were US trained, so they were up on all the new and latest technologies, innovations. They had it in their office. But one of the things they said when they interviewed them was, we have had people get dental procedures done in other parts of Mexico or other countries where the procedure was done, but using the wrong materials. So it, in fact, made their situation worse. So I'm not sure how to get around it. I'll be honest. I don't know how to get around it beyond the Joint Commission or facilities having a relationship with some of the Western facilities. So there is, in this case where the group that was on the news, they were US trained, they were Mexican, but US trained. And what they did is they have an existing relationship and partnership with a well-known like university in the United States. So that gave them the credibility to take in all of these patients. So if it's not going to be Joint Commission, then certainly having it tied to a Mayo Clinic or a Duke. These are huge names that they're not going to take it lightly to attach themselves to a facility that's not on the up and up and using the right materials. So I would have to say looking into those things as well. If it's not Joint Commission, because honestly, I have to check if dental falls under it. They probably do, but I've been looking more at hospitals, so acute type stuff. But making sure that they're affiliated with Western hospitals and those kinds of things. They don't always have to be Western trained. You know, there are a number of well-trained clinicians from outside of the US, but the connection for partnership is key because that puts the onus on the organization in the US. It makes them look bad, and none of them want to look bad. So,
okay. I think it's also important that you talk to your provider about what your expectations are. So
yeah.
When I scheduled my procedure, there's a big part of it that I forgot to ask what he's doing. Like there's a part of it that, because I've done it a couple times. Like I know it always happens the same way. And after I left, I was like, we talked about the first part, but we didn't talk about the second part, which doesn't have to be done. It doesn't have to be done, but it's the reason I'm here, right? Like I want the additional testing, right? It's like, it's the biopsy part of it. Like if we gonna do all that work, let's get a biopsy.
Right.
On our little samples.
Yes.
And so I walk back over to them every day like, hi, because I can't do this over the phone because my Spanish is not that good. So I walked in like, hi, I need to know. And they were like, if he thinks there's a reason to do a biopsy, we'll do it. And I was like, okay, fine, whatever. But I think you can do the same thing with like, what materials are you going to, if I'm getting a crown or whatever, what materials do you have and will you be using? And then knowing what your doctor would be, your dentist in the US uses. I think that's research you can do ahead of time.
It is.
Sure you're getting what you expect from the experience.
Yeah, you should ask what techniques, what materials are being used. Because what I found too is you have to remember, so in the US, there are, we're known for technology and that kind of thing, cutting edge, but there are a number of procedures that have been done outside of the US that have proven to be effective, less evasive, all those things, but they're not approved to be done in the US because we go through the FDA, Food and Drug Administration in the US, and it takes a number of years for you to get through the process proving that, you haven't had X number of deaths, you have certain amount of outcomes, positive outcomes, et cetera, before it's approved here. So there are a number of locations that are doing things a different way from the US that are less evasive, less downtime, not when it comes to cardiac, the thing that comes to mind in Thailand, not cutting and opening your chest for open heart procedure. They have something where they can go with a smaller incision on the left side. And it's known to be, they've been doing it for several years with great outcomes. So I do think you have to research as much as possible and ask those questions. Nothing is too small to ask about. And I say that because people sometimes go into it with the same mindset that they have with US healthcare, thinking, oh, yeah, surely that's going to be. No, don't take anything for granted. Things are done very differently outside of the US, some better, some worse. But nonetheless, you just need to know. So ask these questions. Encourage you to just jot it down in your phone or write it down so that when you meet, you ask all of those questions and you don't forget. And I ask people to do that even here in the US when they go to primary care. There's things that you forget, and there's something called white coat syndrome. As soon as a white coat enters the room, you get nervous and you don't remember all of the things that bothered you since the last time you saw that physician. Right. So write it down and ask about the materials, ask about downtime, ask about training, all of these things. It's okay to ask.
It is. And I think that also in America, especially as Black women, we're not always given the care and respect from medical providers that any human should get. And so it can feel weird to get it abroad. Like sometimes I'm like, oh, y'all doing all this? Okay. Yeah, special, right? And it's not that I'm special. It's that this is how they do things. Real quick, thank you, Hyacinth. Thank you, Media Mama Chick, and thank you, Patty O, for the super chats. Appreciate it. When my last time I had surgery in the US, I was out, right? Like I got my meniscus repaired. And the doctor sent me home with like scans of what happened, whatever. And my next follow-up appointment, I was like, because what they said before surgery was, we don't know what we're going to have to do until we get in there. Sure. Black male doctor, works with athletes, big shot, whatever. So I said to him, so can you tell me what you actually did inside my knee? Because I was asleep when it happened. And then I was woozy when you came back around in the recovery room. And I don't actually know what you did inside my knee, because before the surgery, you said you don't know. Right. He said, well, didn't you look at the scans? I'm supposed to look at pictures of my knee and know what you did, as opposed to you just being like, baby, I sewed these 3 things together, which is like this, draw me I looked at him like, you're not about to make me feel stupid for not being able to look at some pictures of the inside of my knee and figure out what you did. Because baby, I can't name those parts. I don't know what those parts are in that close-up picture of me. I shouldn't have to. Right. When I ask you if you tell me before surgery, I don't know what we're going to be doing inside your knee. We're going to see what it looks like and fix it. After the surgery, when I ask you what you did, I feel like you should be able to give me a good old paragraph of, hey, not, didn't you see the pictures? Okay. Wow. This is what, but like that, I say that to say, when I've had healthcare abroad, that hasn't been my experience. I've gotten the like, hey, however long this takes is however long this takes. I'm going to sit here with you. I'm never in a place where the waiting room has like 30 people in there. If the waiting room has 1 or 2 people, I'm surprised, because usually it's like it's just you. And I think that people underestimate how good medical care can be outside of the US, because all we hear are these horror stories, right, about medical care outside of the US. Right. In getting ready for this interview, I was watching some videos about medical tourism, and I saw a woman. It was, I think, it was from this week. It was from this week on Good Morning America. I heard about medical tourism this week. And they, a woman had surgery, I think maybe in Mexico. I think she had a mommy makeover, and they put heating bags on her hands to keep her hands warm, and they burned her hands. And so the story was all about how like medical tourism can be very dangerous. And I'm like, you're showing us one woman who had adverse effects from one surgery. Like, there aren't people in America having adverse effects from surgery. I was like, this is not.
It's not representative of all of medical tourism. And certainly the procedure had nothing to do with the hands. Maybe she came out and she was freezing. So we're even focusing on the hand warming and the fact that it got burned. Not to say that it's not important, but what happened to the incision? You know what I mean? Like,
Everything else is fine.
ridiculous.
Now it sounds like baby gonna lose a thumb, so I feel real bad for her. Like she was burned.
Okay.
I get it. But like telling me that one woman had an unsafe experience with medical tourism or a bad result, a negative result from medical tourism, not from surgery itself, but from the,
Sure.
The ancillary things, doesn't really give me enough context around how to do it, where to do it, all those things. And I expected more from Good Morning America, but I didn't get it. I don't know why I expected more. But.
I know. I'll tell you, American media positions things depending on daytime, who you talk to. It is positioned that way for a reason. So because of the recent Matamoros situation in Mexico with the 4 individuals, now it's a big topic. So they're going to show you everything negative under the sun with medical tourism. Are they going to show you the flip side of that, where you have a number of individuals that have safer maternal birth rates than America because they're deplorable here, especially for Black women, and have always been for 60 plus years from the moment they started capturing it? And I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but I personally think they just don't care because it's us. Mm-hmm. They don't care. It has always been poor from the moment they've captured it. They're not doing anything about it. And I guarantee you, if it were blonde hair, blue-eyed people with the numbers that we're seeing in maternal health mortality rates, that there would have been a moratorium, there would have been policies, there would have been so many things in place. I think that it's honestly population control. If they can kill us off and kill off the people that can procreate more Black babies, do it. They don't care. They don't care. So the flip side, you have to always take it with a grain of salt. I'm not usually worried about a well-trained clinician in another country. I am more concerned about what do they have access to in order to do their jobs effectively. Mm-hmm. So I'm thinking about health infrastructure. I'm thinking about the facilities and what the facility has to offer in terms of the latest, greatest technology. And not everybody has it. But I also look at and weigh whether or not the way they do it, which may be different from the US, how has that fared? For how long? Do we have enough evidence to say that this is really great? It's just done in a different way.
Okay, that's helpful. And based on what you said, I think it was, I want to say Mississippi, maybe Louisiana. I don't remember. One of those states where someone, congressman down there was like, our maternal mortality rates are just fine as long as you don't count Black women. And it was like, I think it was Mississippi. I think it was, and it was like, we all got a whole bunch of Black people down there. So if you don't count like a good chunk of your population, it's pretty much like the numbers are perfectly normal as long as you don't count Black women. And it's like, well, why wouldn't
I have a situation? One of my in-laws was pregnant, and her first pregnancy, and she had to travel to Alabama. Mm-hmm. And she was healthy pregnancy the whole 9, but she saw her clinician, her OBGYN, who happened to have been a white Hispanic male. And she said, hey, I'm going on this trip to Alabama. I just want to make sure, is everything okay for me to travel? He said, you look fine. Everything's good. Baby's good. Just remember, when you travel, if something does happen, you are at risk. And she said, what do you mean? Essentially said, because you're in Alabama. I mean, do you really trust that anything is going to happen there that is to your benefit? That's what you need to think about. So I'm healthy, I'm okay. I'm coming to you to get the all clear to travel in the US. When he hears that it's Alabama, and it's because he made it very clear it was because she was Black.
And it's unfortunate that the US does such an amazing job of brainwashing Americans and foreigners that they are better at everything, including healthcare. Yeah. When we are here screaming, that's not true. That's not true. We're dying. Like we're literally dying. And someone actually asked earlier about places that are known for deliveries. I think I captured that one. So are there any countries that are known for having like better delivery results than the US?
There's plenty. There's plenty. I'm going to do a video on that actually next month, because next month is Black Maternal Health Month. And someone from Exodus Summit actually asked me to collaborate with them on something like that.
Oh,
She's a
yeah.
doula. Yeah.
Okay.
So so here's the thing. When I went to do the research on it, and this is something that puzzled me, but I spoke with an OBGYN, a Black OBGYN about it, and she said, no, you can still present from this perspective. So what I try to do is look at what are the best countries for X, but I also give education on things you should be asking about, throw in the little things that are palatable so you know, and you arm yourself with everything. The thing about it is most of the places, all of them, that have really great birth mortality rates, mother and baby, are homogenous. They're all white. They're all white. And so I was trying to find what are the best places for Black women to give birth, without having many issues. That does not exist. But what the OBGYN was telling me was that doesn't mean that someone couldn't travel to those same places and get that same level of care as long as it's affordable. And just because they may not have Black people as part of their society, that type of thing. So you can come at it from that angle. So I'm going to do it, and it'll be best mortality rates, so that the countries that have really great numbers, and if someone decides to go there, who's to say that that experience would be negative? And in those cases, I always tell people also look at how Black women are treated overall, or how Blacks are treated overall. And there's a number of videos from yourself, from Stephanie Perry, from Adalia Aborshade, on where you feel welcome in certain countries. And I say, take that and make your decision.
Okay, so I just dropped a link to your channel so that people can subscribe, so they can see this future video. I think that's gonna be really helpful. Let's get into the continent for a second. Okay. Are there any countries in Africa that are medical tourism destinations that are really good at any type of healthcare that you know of?
Sure. So Egypt, Morocco, South Africa, Kenya, and parts of Nigeria.
Okay.
Those are the ones that are coming up consistently for different things.
Okay.
Yeah.
What kinds of things are they coming up for?
They've come up for, I've seen for actually for birth, for some of them, not all of them, for cardiac, for GI, like any type of gastrointestinal type of treatment.
Okay.
I haven't seen cancer. So what I've seen with cancer in those countries is advancements have been made more along the lines of research. So the country is now investing more in research so that they can determine how to approach it, but can't say that actual treatment is there yet where it's stellar and you'd want to travel there for it.
Okay. All right. But there are countries on the continent that are doing medical care really well.
Yes. Okay. Yes. Kenya, Nigeria, South Africa, Egypt, and Morocco right now that come to mind. And it's for a number of different things.
Okay. So Media Mama Chick asked about aging in place. So we're not talking about necessarily tourism, but if you're going to move to a country. So the friends of the channel and of Exodus Summit, Eve, who was a speaker at the first Exodus Summit in 2020, exodussummit.com, she was thinking of living in Belize. She wanted to live on one of the islands, but she has health issues and her husband has health issues. And she realized that to live on one of the islands, they wouldn't be able to get health care after a certain time because there's no hospital on the island. And the boat stops running after a certain hour. And so she crossed Belize off her list as a place she could live because after doing her research, she realized she couldn't get the care she needed. What are countries that are like the opposite of that, where they have really good healthcare in place and things that seniors should be considering?
So there are a number of them. So I feel like that is also a matter of choice because there are so many, because it really involves looking at the healthcare infrastructure. Are you going to be able to get care like after hours, like you mentioned for Belize, it didn't have it offered? Okay, that checks it off. But there are a number of countries where it is available, but how good is it? So it's a matter of looking at, I would say, whatever your conditions are, the type of care you envision needing, and that's a conversation you can have with primary care because they tend to be the centralized, I know everything about you, you've gone to this specialist, you've had this procedure done. Those kinds of things, having a conversation, open, honest conversation, thinking about going here and doing that. They can share what things you need. And then at that point, I would say, because it's something that is so subjective, because you can give it places, but somebody likes a warm climate. They want this. They want to be X number of hours away from the US to go back and forth. They want, all those pieces are things that are really important if you plan on moving somewhere. So it depends. I would suggest determining what region you want to live in, right? And if you say Latin America and the Caribbean, then we would do a search on best facilities in that region, and you can narrow it down to the countries and then determine from there. I would say do it that way. That's the best way, I think, to do it.
So for me, I think it's also, I would think about what I am dealing with now and what I have a family history of. Right. And see, like, put that into the equation when I figure out what countries are good for where can I get, honestly, if I'm a senior and I'm worried about aging in place and healthcare, I would also be looking at where, if I move there and get residency, or if I'm in the country legally, I have residency, and I'm not a tourist, we're living somewhere full time. Where can I get on the national health care, and where will that national health care get me into good facilities? That, I think, is one of the things I'd be thinking about. And if I can't find a place I want to live on, where when I become a resident, I can get on the socialized healthcare system. Can't find a place like that, I would also be looking at where can I find good hospitals at reduced costs. So I think it really depends on what is going on with you physically, what you expect to be happening with you physically, and what are the options available to you to get healthcare. So like Mexico, love it here. I don't want to get on the national healthcare system because I don't want to go to a public hospital.
Right. And see, that's the thing. So when you're looking, all of those things that you said are spot on. When you talk about, when I'm to say speak with your primary care, you are looking at essentially, this is what I have. This is what I have a family history of. This is what we're thinking based on your behaviors, because medical behaviors, personal behaviors are key. How you eat, what do you do to help yourself with whatever is going on with you medically, will help you determine, I am going to need X, I'm probably going to need Y. And that should be, your family history should factor into that as well. Now, when it comes to looking at the infrastructure, picking a region, you can look, and when I say that, I mean, I'm looking at facilities that are accredited also. How often, because maybe, how many of them exist in your location as well? Because it could be one hospital and you live several miles, maybe in the south, and it's in the north. How quickly are you going to actually get to that if you needed it for an emergency? So those kinds of things as well. And then if you're going to live somewhere, I would hope that someone would thoroughly investigate whatever health insurance options you have available, whether it's a universal or national health plan, or you're purchasing something separately. Some people are veterans with the US government, and that is acknowledged in certain countries. So that kind of coverage as well. All of those pieces play into that, in addition to what do you just genuinely like if you're going to move somewhere, and what do you want for your lifestyle to make you comfortable in your new home.
Okay. That's really helpful. Okay. So I want to back up a second and name the resources we talked about before. So if you are a nurse and you want to move away from bedside nursing, if you want to work more within the medical tourism space, holler at Dr. Natasha.
Thank you.
I'm going to drop the link here for higher nursing. Boom. Okay. If you are looking for accredited facilities, because Dr. Natasha says start with the facility, not with the doctor. If you're looking for accredited facilities around the world, can I type and talk? The Joint Commission is a place to go,
Yes.
Also, Patients Beyond Borders is going to give you more information from the patient side. Is that how that works?
From a patient side, yeah, it gives you a lot of resources on best countries for X, Y, or just even data on what's been done, outcomes. There are a lot of things that you can access for free there. And then they also have, I think they put out, if I'm not mistaken, a yearly book on best of everything. And you can pay a fee and get that book and see which countries and specifically which facilities are best at X procedure or whatever the case.
All right, so that's Patients Beyond Borders, info from the patient side, and jointcommission.org, which is now, let me go ahead and bookmark this right now since I am looking for medical care here. Done. Bookmark is done. Okay, so let me get back to some of y'all questions. Dr. Natasha, before I get back to the questions, is there anything we haven't talked about yet?
Let me think. Oh, one of the things I wanted to mention was, when you have certain things that you expect that are going to happen when you go, but what people tend to not think about are the unexpected expenses that people don't consider. What I found is that a lot of it stems from maybe having a complication of some sort. So it's usually something medical, and beforehand, people are transparent about costs related to the procedure you intend to have. But what if something happens, you have an infection, whatever it may be? There are additional hospital costs if you have to stay overnight or inpatient for a number of days. Physician costs, now you may need a specialist because your surgeon only handled that procedure, but now with this complication, you need another specialist. Medications or prescriptions that are needed that are related to the complications. You need to be really clear, especially if you're making your own arrangements, because you may require additional surgery or that extended hospital stay, or additional even diagnostic or imaging tests, going back and forth for CT scans, X-rays, whatever. All this additional treatment affects your budget. It affects your overall budget. It affects also your travel budget because maybe you intended to go for 3 weeks and because of this complication, you have to stay longer. So that recovery time, you add on to that. How much is it going to cost you to change your flights, your accommodations that are associated with that? So those are things that I think we haven't touched on that I think are really important for you guys to consider as well.
Okay, that is helpful. I'm forgetting something. There's something that I want to talk about. I'm forgetting. Let me go back to the questions. Where's popular for breast implants?
Breast implants, that's a big one. It's not even as popular as it used to be anymore. But you can find a number of places in Latin America and the Caribbean, which is a good thing only because it's closer to the US. So you don't have as many, you don't have an exorbitant amount of money to spend on flights. You can do that in Mexico. You can do that in Colombia. Also, where else is known for that? The DR is known for that, but I gave earlier on my spiel on the DR. Make sure you're double checking everything because a number of things have happened over the last 2 years, specifically in the DR. Let me see, there was another place in South America. I want to say, I don't remember which one. I was going to say Ecuador or Peru, but I cannot remember. I don't want to give the wrong name. But there are a number of places in Latin America where you can find it. But then also outside of that, Thailand, Malaysia, India, Spain, Turkey, pick your poison, anywhere. Breast augmentation is something that happens extremely frequently. It is something where a number of countries are well prepared for that. And they're well prepared for that for cosmetic reasons, for elective, but they're also prepared for it because of cancer, breast cancer patients. So a lot of them, after, if they have a mastectomy, double mastectomy, they will go back in and they say, I want to have breast augmentation. And so they have that. So a number of countries are really well positioned to give you quality care and can provide breast augmentation surgery. It's a matter of cost and looking up all the specifics that I said before, but you would find it for far less than you would in the US.
Okay. Question. and I don't know that I have enough information to ask this question properly, but I'm going to try to work through. I feel like some of these things people are getting done, they're getting done in clinics and not hospitals.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, all right. There we go. Okay. So there is something there.
Okay. So most of the things that are being done in clinics are actually being done here in the US.
In clinics. Okay. So in the US, they're doing.
They should not be. They should not be. If you find them being done in clinics abroad, it is typically someone who did not do enough research. They saw someone online, believed what they saw, and went ahead. Or they could have had someone they know or a friend of a friend did that, and they decided to go along with it. If you are doing proper research, there's no way some of these things should be done in a clinical setting. These are things where you need to have anesthesia provided, and that should be provided in a hospital setting, not in a clinical setting. You're being opened up. So if you're, depending on the procedure, but if you're being opened up, that opens you up to a number of things in terms like infections, and your downtime as well. So you have to think about that. So whatever, the more, the tougher the procedure, meaning more how difficult it is in nature, how much you have to open up to have it done. That to me means that you as a consumer should be doing your due diligence to find out about the facility and the associated clinicians with it. You want to know where you are supposed to show up on the actual date of the procedure.
Okay.
And you can Google that ahead of time. Like you can ask, where will it be done before you even fly out, and Google it and make sure it's not a clinic and that it's an actual hospital facility.
Okay. So if you're getting cut open, we're going to ignore the US. The US does not exist. We're not talking about the US right now. You're getting cut open in a country that is not America. You should be in a hospital.
I think you should be in a hospital. There also for, especially if you're being cut open, one of the things that, what if you have a code? Anything can go wrong. If you have a code blue where you just stop breathing, a clinic's not going to do it. I mean, yes, they can do CPR all they want, but in an acute setting, you have everything you need there to give you the best chances of a good outcome.
Okay. So don't, even if it saves you some money, do it in the, if your point, and here's where I think you started and never really said it. This is not a race to the bottom of who has the cheapest costs.
It is not. As a matter of fact, it should be a red flag if it is too cheap. But when I say too cheap, in relation to others in that country.
Okay.
Because it is usually cheaper than the US. Yeah. If it is significantly cheaper compared to their counterparts in country, that's a red flag.
Okay. And it might be a missing kidney.
And it might be a missing kidney. For this, I would say, so dental clinic all day long, it's fine. Right. You know, we do that at practices, but I just feel like if you're going for BBL, now they do, some places do liposuction in an office where they have, say, 2 surgical rooms. I would want a tour of those rooms before I signed off on anything and got on a plane. Okay.
Like a video tour of the room?
Video tour. Go ahead, show me. I'd like to see the facilities.
Okay. All right. That's helpful. Because I do feel like people, what we're seeing now are more people looking for the cheapest way to get it done and not necessarily thinking through the risks along the way.
It's tough because, like I said, if we had to look at, and I think they survey every year, there's a medical tourism body in the United States that surveys how many people that go outside of the US for any type of medical tourism. And when they surveyed, they said the top thing was affordability. That was number 1. Number 2 was quality. Mm-hmm. And I just felt like, oh my gosh, that just shows you how backwards we are in terms of our thinking, because we should have quality first. Affordability should come in there somewhere, but
see, I would challenge that. And I think it's a sign of how backwards the American medical system is.
That's what I'm talking about. Yes. That is what I'm talking about.
It's not individual.
And that's why I say it's not healthcare. It is care, right? For us to be like, oh my gosh, how much it costs. I have been in a situation where I've had patients who are diabetics, they're on insulin, but because the insulin costs so much money, they start tapering down the amount of insulin they take so it lasts longer because they can't afford it because their lights are going to go out. So I want to keep my lights on because I need to see, I need to eat, I need to all these things, but then I am going to take this smaller amount, which doesn't even touch my blood sugar. So this is just the society that has been built here in the US. Everything is capitalism over health. And I'm hoping that people, if they decide to leave, will not take that mentality and just transplant it to another place.
Right. And I think it's important that we're always very careful about what we do. Like, it doesn't matter what your body looks like if you're not alive. Like, let's
exactly
right. And I also think that, so someone asked earlier about alternative medicines, and I think part of where we can get if you're really sick and you're not sure what, and the US doctors don't have answers, right? Like, I'm thinking specifically cancers, right? A lot of times people are lured by alternative medicine, and it's hard to really know, is this going to work or is this just going to be some kind of placebo effect? And going to another country where even less, right? Can be really hard. And so I think there's an amount of research that has to go into this, and vetting that is hard to do when you're not well, right? Like, it's hard to do that research, specifically when you need it the most is probably when you need external support.
Sure. No, absolutely. And I understand that because here, what's interesting is in the US, you'll find that a number of clinicians, and I'm speaking specifically when it comes to cancer, but it exists with other things as well. You will find that clinicians, because this is what they're taught in medical school, they are not open to even listening to anything by nature of alternative medicine. No, we got to get you some chemo, we got to get you some radiation or combination and surgery, remove that piece, and then you continue with the chemo, et cetera. That's not always the best. I've seen people survive off of alternative medicine, whether it's here or another country. It depends on a number of factors. It depends on the individual, how they have been pre-diagnosis, what their lifestyle is like, and what type of cancer, how aggressive, when it was found, all of these things. I think it is difficult for alternative medicine to be proven effective in other countries because there's not a body similar to the Joint Commission that's in place doing that right now. They may have something specific to their country, but an international body that you can say, yeah, that reputation, I can go with it in the same manner that you'd pick a hospital, it doesn't exist. So it's difficult.
Okay. So to recap what we talked about before, when you want to do any kind of medical tourism, first off is Google to figure out what countries are doing it a lot, because the more, you told us this earlier, the more something is done in a region, which could be Miami, the more something is done in a region, the more people do it, the lower the price usually goes. Yeah. And you're probably getting better quality as well because everyone's doing it regularly. Yes. Okay, then we're going to go to a place like thejointcommission.org, and we're going to look at the accredited facilities that do that work in the area. And then we're going to research doctors.
Yes.
And then we're going to call the facility, and we're going to talk to them about what to expect, what the care looks like. And if we're not comfortable having that conversation, we're going to look for an individual medical tourism facilitator to help us find the places.
Yes, an individual can help you with that. If you are still hell-bent on doing it yourself, what I would say is whatever doctors you currently have, primary and any specialist, let them know you're considering X procedure or treatment abroad. You would like to know from them what kinds of questions to ask. They'll give it to you. You're their patient. They'll give it to you. So you take it from your primary, take it from this specialist, and you go, and when you talk with the medical tourism department abroad, you're going to have all these questions answered if you still decide you're going at it alone.
Well, are those doctors going to give it to you, or are they going to tell you you're going to die if you go get it done overseas?
No, they will still tell you. They're going to tell you both. They're going to say, I don't think you should go. I don't think you know you're going to die. You know, they'll still get to you. And then, and you know what? Some may be stubborn enough to say, I'm not going to give it to you. But typically, they'll still give it to you. They know you're going to go. They're going to say, make sure they have X. Make sure they have that. You want to know what type.
Okay. All right. That's helpful. That's really helpful. Thank you. Let me see. There was a lot of information here.
I hope it's all useful to everybody.
It's really good. And I think that for your channel, you have a lot of ideas for future videos because people asked about so many things. I think one of the other things we didn't touch on was fertility treatments. If you were going to get fertility treatments, I know you got them 3 kids. You're not doing that. But if you were going to go, I'm sorry, but I'm sorry to even say it. But if you were going to go for fertility treatment, name 3 countries you'd consider.
I can't tell you right now because I haven't even done the research on it.
Right.
It's coming, but I have not done it, but it'll be coming within the next coming weeks because April is Black Maternal Health Month or week. And I'm going to be looking all of that up. And again, it's twofold. I'll be sharing best for fertility to get pregnant if you have been having difficulty. And I know that in vitro costs a lot of money here. So making sure that I look up those and then other options if you're not doing that, because honestly, then you have the surrogacy, which a number of countries do that as well. And then the other piece is if you are pregnant and you just want to go somewhere to deliver, maybe ride out the rest of your pregnancy and deliver in a country where you feel you will have safer outcomes. I'm going to deliver all of those pieces very, very soon.
Okay. I'd love to hear more about the surrogacy thing because I feel like there are so many places for that to go wrong. And
oh my goodness.
There's so many, like between the women not being treated right and like, you know, you want the vessel for your child to be like treated like a queen. Yeah. And apparently that ain't always what's happening. And like, also like how I know that's my baby, like, right? Like, how do I know?
That's true.
That you put the right juice inside what's happening.
No, that's true. And typically here, this is where I definitely would suggest using a medical tourism facilitator. And I would even go as far as saying maybe a facility. I couldn't recommend one, but I would certainly do my homework with it because if you have a place that just focuses on that, you will probably see the best results. I would guarantee that they are, you know, making sure that we're not having women who are being beaten, taken from slums, and then they don't get any compensation for it, you know, that they're also caring for their bodies and all of these pieces. So for certain, I would say my first would be medical tourism facilitator route. And second, I would look for another facility. You would probably be able to find that pretty quickly because it's such a big market for that.
All right. Okay. That's really helpful. All right. So I want to leave y'all with the most important thing I got from this. I got 2 really important things from this. Start with the facility. Don't be so cheap that you end up dead.
Please don't.
I don't know how else to say that, but like we're looking for American healthcare is broken.
Yes.
It's broken. We can acknowledge that. And so we're looking for alternatives. And a lot of these alternatives are going to be cheaper. But if you're looking for the very, very cheapest thing, by the way, some people mentioned, I wasn't going to mention it here. But someone mentioned in the comments, like the woman who went to Matamoros for healthcare. You mentioned earlier, Natasha. I didn't know this, but actually people do. Because in Mexico, when we live in Mexico, those of us down here are like, we'll go to Matamoros for nothing. Nothing. Yeah. You will not catch me there. There's no and this is before this week, no one I know goes there. We go all over the country. We don't go there and a couple other places. But you said there actually is a cosmetic surgery.
It's known for some type of medical tourism. And they were, I believe, going for tummy tucks. Even the men, there were 2 men, 2 women, and all of them are going for that. Yeah, it's a thing. Social media. That's another thing for another day. But they are known for medical tourism. Now, I believe they are known for the cheap stuff that I'm telling you are red flags because I said, let me go ahead and give them the benefit of the doubt. Let me go ahead and Google Matamoros myself. I never heard of it. I did that since this happened. Of course, you see more news on it, but I was able to look a little deeper, and I found so many things where people were saying, stay away, stay away. It's a border town. I almost got killed there. Men surrounded me and they were catcalling me, and they were saying, don't ever come back here, gangs and cults and all these things. And I mean, from 13 years ago, and this is on TripAdvisor, which everybody should probably be just doing that for free to look at, to say, hey, I'm going to go here, whether it's medical tourism or just general tourism. And it was there. So these things exist if people aren't doing their due diligence, or they're so excited about the price and the proposed outcome that they don't go any further, in their search. Oh, we're about to get this and we're about to have that, and at the cost of your life.
So there's value in just doing the Googles, the real quick Googles. Like, what's this town like? If you're going to, but I feel like, okay, so I don't do this everywhere I go, but if you've watched my videos before, I tell y'all, don't go to border towns. If you can avoid a border town, any border, anywhere in the world, unless that region has had no conflicts for the last 100 years, I don't go to border towns. It's not my business.
Right.
It's not my thing. And so Google, however people found inexpensive plastic surgeons, they could have also found,
absolutely,
without trying to say this without victim blaming. It's important to go beyond the price. It's important to know what the entire experience will be. Absolutely. Because even then, if you're planning something like this, if you're planning a tummy tuck or any kind of surgery, you need to recover. And so you need to do if I'm recovering in a place for, let's say, a week, maybe not, but let's say a week, I'm going to want to know something about that town, and Googling anything about it would tell you not to go there. Right. But that's important too, that you know where you're going, and that you're going to a place where you're going to be safe.
Yeah. Surrounding areas, those kinds of things too. And our condolences to the families of the 2 victims that were killed, and our thoughts are with the 2 that survived. Hopefully their recovery goes smoothly. But this is something that I believe, if a little bit more due diligence on just literally TripAdvisor, free. I mean, I know, I know some people that literally look up the CDC, not CDC, I'm sorry, the U.S. State Department's advisories, which those are always the worst, okay? And quite frankly, the U.S. State Department should have many travel advisories for U.S. cities, and they don't. So I'm going to go there. Now, they're not enough on good things that happen there, so I just feel like if you can look at TripAdvisor, which are real people going to real places, and they don't hold back, they're extremely candid about anything from a hotel to the people in the city to restaurants. They give you all of the tea. It's priceless. Priceless. It's free and it's priceless.
I also think I just had this thought, and it may be a little extra. Y'all know I like extra. I think that if you're planning on going somewhere for plastic surgery, try to join an expat group in that city.
Oh, absolutely. I actually say that at the end of all my videos. Check out the expat and repat groups, travel groups of people who just might be going for nomad purposes, spending some time there. They're able to give you such great insight. Tell them, I'm thinking about this. And they will tell you all of the information about it. But I tell people all the time, do your own research. Also, tap into those expat and repat sites and travel sites, because people are more than willing to share their experiences with you. Because even if someone traveled to a particular place and it was not specific to a medical procedure or treatment, if there was an emergency, they may have used it, or they just know about it, because you find that in everyday runnings, you find out what's going on in places and what's the happenings, and, oh, don't go to this hospital or don't go to this doctor. So,
yeah, I think that's a really good way. Even if you don't ask the doctor questions, I'm going to say it like this. if you can't find an expat group in that city, I would not go to that city for medical care.
I would have to agree with you. I would have to agree with you on that one.
Wouldn't do it. Okay. Have you guys subscribed to Dr. Natasha's channel?
Please.
Not enough of you have. Go do it. A bunch of y'all have. Yay.
Thank
and
you.
She's going to come with the good stuff. She's going to tell you about where to go, where to get the treatment. And if you are a nurse that wants to transition out of bedside nursing, make sure you hit her up. Link is in the description. Dr. Natasha, thank you so much for being a guest today.
Thank you so much for having me.
The crew really loved it. The crew really, there's already a request for a part 2. So
submit the content. What do you want me to look into? And I'll make sure I cover those things on the next one.
Come back to the comments, Dr. Natasha. They'll tell you what they want to see. So if you have things you want her to talk about, drop them in the comments. Not after like next week though. Not gonna look at these comments forever. We appreciate you guys being here. Thank you for the super stickers, Dr. Natasha. I will send that money to you because you know things. I don't know things. I'm gonna send that over.
You.
So I'll ask you for a Cash App or a PayPal or something in a minute when we get off. Everybody, thank you so much for being here. Dr. Natasha, thank you for all of the great wisdom you have.
My pleasure.
This is a topic that I'm really glad we covered it because I learned some things today.
Yeah, that's my goal. I just want to make sure our Black women are cared for. You arm yourselves with what you can and make the best decisions. Because listen, after you do whatever it is you're going to do, because no judgments from me, I want you to enjoy your life.
Yes.
And to just live carefree, not worrying about complications or anything like that. So do your research. Love you guys.
Thank you. Talk to you later.
Thank you. Take care. Bye, everyone.
Bye.